Hey guys, I'm Sun. I'm a privacy and a security researcher, and you're watching The Privacy Guides. I am so excited to start the Bitcoin series finally. Now, quick disclaimer, whatever you read in the comments below, that might be someone trying to steal your money or steal your crypto. So be really careful. I'm going to leave comments on, at least for this first episode, and I am counting on all of us to crowdsource the process of flagging all of the bad actors that are trying to profit from this content. And if ever it gets too problematic, I'll just disable comments. Hopefully we get to keep the conversation going. So that disclosure being put aside, I would like to thank ShakePay. ShakePay has decided to support the Privacy Guides, and they have funded this whole series. ShakePay is the #1 Canadian Bitcoin exchange where Canadians can buy and sell Bitcoin. Check them out. I'll link to them in the description. So throughout this Bitcoin series, I am going to be approaching Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general through the lens of privacy. I am going to be sharing the process that I have gone through to set up multiple Bitcoin wallets and think about how to secure one's Bitcoin holding. I'm going to be talking about how Bitcoin can be purchased. I'm going to be talking about custodial versus non-custodial ways of holding Bitcoin. I have notes here because there's so much things I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be giving you guys quick overviews of how Bitcoin works from, BIP39, and that's kind of how we create deterministic wallets and all kinds of things like this, how Bitcoin addresses are designed in a way where if you do a typo, it won't let you go through with a transaction. So there's a lot of incredible, smart people working on Bitcoin, and I think that we can use this knowledge to build pretty much all kinds of different technologies and get inspired from this. Then I am going to be talking about InfoSec and OPSEC. So for those of you who don't know anything about InfoSec and OPSEC, InfoSec is usually threat modeling done around digital forms of attacks. So like your computer being compromised with a keylogger, for instance, things like this, as where OPSEC is more of threat modeling in the physical world. So like what if someone breaks into your house and steals one of your trezors, for instance? Or what if someone, breaks into your house and threatens you in order for you to give them access to your Bitcoin holding, for instance? So that's OPSEC. Then I will be talking about paper backups and alternatives. So when you guys buy a Trezor device, for instance, it ships with a little card and it asks you to write the mnemonic or recovery material on the card. And I find that that is not secure enough to my liking. So I have created a special piece of technology using Raspberry Pi devices that allows us to create encrypted paper backups, and I'm going to be sharing much more about that project throughout the series. Then we're going to be setting up a Bitcoin wallet on Electrum, and then we will be moving to using Electron on Tails. I say Electron. Damn it, son. There are so many words that have to do with this. Electron JS is something else. Not good, son. Damn it. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to use Electrum on Tails. Tails being an amnesic operating system that is great to compartmentalize things. It's amazing from an InfoSec perspective. Then we'll talk about multisig and why multi-signature is such an amazing scheme to protect Bitcoin holdings, even if you're one person. So like I use multisig for the donation holding. And the reason why is I want to mitigate OPSEC threats. So yeah, multisig, and we're going to be setting up a multisig Electrum wallet. And there might be more things. This is kind of like the main train of thought I have, but I'm going to be discussing this in great detail as usual. If you guys have been watching the Privacy Guides for some time, you know how deep I like to get into these rabbit holes. So the same will happen in the context of Bitcoin. Now, if you haven't smash that subscribe button yet and click that bell notification, please do so and you'll be notified when I release these episodes. Now, if you're not into Bitcoin and you're like, son, I like your channel, but this Bitcoin stuff, I don't think it's for me. I promise this content will be helpful for anything that has to do with computer security and physical security. So there is much to be learned, I believe, throughout this series. I know I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours thinking about these problems, and I'm going to be sharing my train of thought throughout this series. Hey guys, I'm currently editing this episode and notice that I've said the word Bitcoin 18 times so far, and that gave me an idea.
to anyone willing to keep count of how many times I will be saying the word Bitcoin throughout the whole series, so not just this episode, at the end of the series, I am going to make a form available to you, and you can submit that count and also answer a few technical questions to make sure that you followed along. And I'll choose randomly one of you and send you 2 Trezor Model 1s by mail, so that one of you gets to set up a multi-sig wallet on Electrum. Now, yeah, keep count.
All right, but what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin essentially is an alternative store of value to US dollars or Canadian dollars, euros. It's a currency that is issued or governed by its participants. So you and I, who may have Bitcoin, miners, we're stakeholders. We get to be involved in the process of how that cryptocurrency is governed. So Bitcoin is an open source project, which means that, as probably you know by now, there's a certain person or group of people called Satoshi Nakamoto who created a white paper and created source code for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is I'm pretty sure it's the first cryptocurrency that was actually well thought out. Now, that open source project started growing organically, and people were participating by being miners. So you've probably heard the word Bitcoin mining. It's a huge thing. It's a problem for the environment right now, which we definitely have to work on. But essentially, the way it works is you and I can run a Bitcoin client. That Bitcoin client interacts with what we call a full node. A full node is a full copy of the Bitcoin ledger. That's all transactions that have been done historically. And we then broadcast a transaction that is captured by miners, and miners compete to do computational work on that transaction, and then that computation work will confirm that a transaction is actually correct or legitimate, and that it's not a double span, meaning it's a first write to the blockchain, and then it's written to the blockchain. So that's what miners do. And in order to compensate miners for this computationally intensive work, they are issued freshly minted Bitcoin. So that's where Bitcoins originate. Bitcoin originate from the mining process. And those initial Bitcoins that are issued by the network, they're freshly minted Bitcoin. That means that they're not tinted. They don't have a history. So people have considered Bitcoin an anonymous payment method over time. Well, that is mostly not true. And it definitely is very likely not true nowadays, and I'll be explaining this later in the series. So yeah, Bitcoin is an alternative store of value to fiat currencies that is not bound to a specific governing entity. It's not bound to geographical limitations. There are no, borders. Money can flow pretty much organically. That being said, countries can put in place legislation to prevent people from holding Bitcoin. We're starting to see more and more of this in China, and that's a problem, but that's not really a technological problem. It's really a problem about ideologies, and I'm going to try to stay away from this in the context of this series. So Bitcoin is a way for you and I to store value, and we can do it on our own. So for instance, using a Trezor device, one can secure our own holding and then be our own bank. So if you have, in the context of Bitcoin, custody of the private keys, the Bitcoins are yours. So I'll take a really short moment here to explain what that means. So Bitcoin is based on public key cryptography, which means that there is a private key and there is a public key. When you guys send each other Bitcoin, you're using the public key as the receiving address. And then if you want to claim ownership on those Bitcoins to broadcast a transaction to the blockchain, you're essentially proving cryptographically that you own that public key. So a Bitcoin wallet is essentially a bunch of private keys, one or more. Often using deterministic wallets, you have key derivation, which means that one master private key can generate a whole bunch of subkeys. I'll be talking about all of this throughout the series. So Bitcoin, if you have the keys, it means that you are your own bank, and that is fabulous. So if you're trying to store say a reserve of $50,000, well, you don't have to go and put it into a bank. And as we have seen throughout human history, governance collapse, banking systems collapse. The cool thing about Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency that is well established and pretty well valued across the world is it's a way for us as human beings to store value and exchange values among ourselves without relying on a third-party entity. We're relying on a distributed network that is governed by participants, which is really amazing. Again, it's one of the truly decentralized pieces of technology historically. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of context as to what Bitcoin is. I will not be talking about investing in Bitcoin speculation, stuff like this. I am a cypherpunk and I really believe in the underlying value of a system like Bitcoin. I think that it gives a lot of power back to the people, and that is why I love Bitcoin.
Hey guys, I do consulting. If you guys need help to set up a really robust Bitcoin holding and you would like me to hold your hand, I can do that. So yeah, get in touch. I'll link to my contact page in the description. And by the way, thanks to everyone who has donated so far. This project is possible thanks to contributions of viewers like you. So all donations are put to work and allow me to do more of this, create more content. So yeah, thanks. Bye.